when we saw like at least 7 guys beat up one poor kid who had nothing to, who wasn't protesting. So we tried to take pictures and videos, and then they tried to snatch our phones. And then what we did was, because there was a huge mob, we tried to go inside the courtroom. There were a couple of us. It was me, it was Amit Pandey from IBN 7, Ankit, ABP, Sonal, NDTV, and there was another girl from Print, sorry, can't recall her name. And then this huge mob, people who were dressed in black suits, looked like lawyers, they came in and they started abusing us, asked us to vacate the courtroom. And so I was the first one who started walking out, and there was this female lawyer who started telling me, "Ek thappad marenge, tab samajh aayegi." And when I stepped out, they were in a huge... You were also there, so you were stuck inside. So I was the one, I stepped out, and I was surrounded by a huge mob who just kept abusing and shouting. And there were a couple of men who started saying things like, "Do thappad maro, is ladki ko peet dete hain." And there was a lady constable, so I told her, "Ma'am, do something." So she said, maybe, she didn't want to incite the mob any further.
Worst things to female journalists. I mean, I won't be able to repeat that.
See, I'll tell you.
No, I think it's not appropriate. Come on, repeat it. No, I mean, they were calling them prostitutes also. I won't say.
See, I'll tell you, I think the point to note here is...
Yeah. So they were saying all sorts of things here, and they knew that we were from media. I mean, people were saying that they thought we were JNU guys and all. And it's a very sorry explanation. I told them, I repeated them, I am from DNA, I am from G News, and they specifically told me, so what? We don't want you here. And this one guy said that if you protest, मतलब अगर यहाँ से भागे नहीं तो मैं JNU का कैसे पिटवा देंगे.
And what Azaan and Sonal pointed out, I think the biggest irony is that there was a huge number of policemen who were present. We asked them to intervene, and instead of helping us out, they said, "Please leave the courtrooms, otherwise, you may get beaten up." And imagine if I'm standing there, like 40 men surrounding me, threatening, "लड़की को थप्पड़ मारो, इसको एक लड़की को पकड़ के मारते हैं," and the police is just standing by and watching. Then what do we do? Where do we go?
They were just not standing and watching. These goons in black jackets were directing the cops what to do. I saw some of them very clearly tell them. Some of them very clearly. We were there inside the court, and they were clearly telling us, "Sir, पुलिस को बोल रहे थे इनको बाहर निकाल दो." They were directing the cops what to do. The cops were working on the dictat. That's the point.
And the police were saying, "भैया भैया बहुत मार लिया, भैया बहुत हो गया, बहुत मार लिया भैया." They did that to Amit. भैया हो गया, मार लिया ना, चलो ठीक है ना.
I was there yesterday. I was inside the courtroom where Amit Pandey, a very senior journalist with a news channel, he was beaten up. Sneha, Sonal and I tried to protect him, thinking that because we are girls, they will not try to touch us, or they will not try to attack us. So I think to some extent we tried to protect him, and that's how he was protected. But unfortunately, we were no match for the 10 goons who just held on to him for dear life, and they dragged him out in the corridor. And the lawyers of the politicians. I know the faces, but I don't know their names.
Were they in black?
They were wearing black and white. They were wearing lawyers' clothes, but I'm not sure if they're lawyers. I can't say if they were lawyers, because you have a certain aura about you where there's some respect at least for the law, but these guys had no respect for anybody but themselves and their wives.
So what happened to you?
I was trying to save Amit Pandey, so they knew who I was. They knew I was one of the journalists, and even before in the interaction, there was quite a heated debate between me and a couple of other journalists with the lawyers. We were just asking them that who are they to throw us out of the courtroom, and we very clearly mentioned, if the judge instructs us to go out, we will, because that's his court and it's his chambers, and if the judge tells us to go, we will go, but the lawyers are nobody to tell us to get out anywhere. So I was part of that debate. I was part of that shouting match, if you want to call it. So they were kind of actively looking for me.
Did they chuck you off?
Yeah, they chucked me out.
Pushed you out?
They told me, put your phone inside, put your notepad inside, and just walk out of here, otherwise we will push you out. So I said, okay, I'm going, and nobody dare touches me. And I just walked out, and the minute I came out, and I ran. I went towards the Chief Metropolitan Magistrate's Court, because that's where Arun Jaitley was. I knew he was already on premises, and I knew he would have SPG protection with him, so I ran towards that court, and I ran towards a special cell, because that's where there are armed guards. So in that sense, for that 5 minutes I was a little safe. Then I caught up with the rest of my colleagues. Sneha was one of them, and we were 2-3 other girls, including a Prachi from the Bharat Times. We all went to the DJ's court. We said we'd lodge a complaint. So we went to the DJ's court. He's Amarnath, Judge Amarnath, and he could not come out to meet us because he was in a meeting. He could not cancel his meeting to come out and meet us. So we said, okay, we will wait for you because we thought we'd be safe inside his court. But one of the lawyers, she was a lawyer, one of the lawyers who was part of the mob, she was looking for us. So she entered the courtroom, she saw me, she recognized all of us, she went out and she called the mob back. That's when the mob came back, and there was one lawyer who walked inside the courtroom and he had a cigarette in his mouth and he was smoking away, and then he had inside the courtroom. So he was smoking.
Was he a lawyer?
He was lawyer, quotation. So he had a lit cigarette in his mouth. He entered the courtroom. He looked at me from top to bottom. He tapped his ash and he's like, I want your phone. I said, I'm not going to give you my phone because you have no right to my phone. He said, okay, then I want to see if you've taken any pictures. I said, I know the rules. I'm a journalist. I know I'm not supposed to take pictures inside the courtroom. I have not done anything like that. And but in the meantime, the mob was looking at everybody else's phone and they were deleting stuff if they found anything. And I refused to give my phone and I said, I'm not going to give it, you can do what you want. They said, okay, now you have to leave, you have to get out of this court. I said, this is not your court. If the judge tells me to get out of this courtroom, I will go. But you are no one to tell me to get out of somebody else's courtroom. This is not your, this is not your property. Then they said, okay, you have to leave. I said, no, I'm not going to leave. You go first, I will leave after you go because I don't trust you. I don't want to die out there. And then they left, but they were milling about outside, and we closed the doors of the courtroom, and the policeman was standing inside because I think it was at that time the court staff told them to go out, and then they had to listen to her. Then we waited for another 5 minutes, and I said, this is not a safe place to be because now they know we're here. They're going to come with a bigger and larger crowd, and clearly no one's going to come and save us because there wasn't any police over there. So as I was going out, there was a lawyer whom I know. I couldn't place him at that time, but I knew him, and I knew he was one of the good guys. He said, I'm looking for Ritika. I said, who's asking? He said, I'm someone. I'm here to take you out. I said, okay, wait, yeah, I know you. I think I'll come out with you. And then that's when he took me and he took Sneha, and the three of us, we just sneaked out and we ran like hell. We just took one of the by-lanes and we hid in his chamber for the next 45 minutes. By-lanes. And we hid in his chambers for the next 45 minutes. And we had a guard standing outside, and he would tell us when was a good time to get out and when not. Because apparently there was a second round of mob violence, when there was a second wave of the mob looking out for journalists to beat out.
What do you mean second wave?
The first wave was when it all hit, when it all exploded at around 2 o'clock. It was between 2 to 15, 2:30. Between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. That was the first wave when they chased everyone out. Then there was, I think, a bit of a silence when they were just roaming about looking for journalists. Then a second wave started at around 3:30, quarter to 4.
Of lawyers?
Of lawyers.